Pastry cream is a bakery staple and an essential part of every pastry chef's toolkit. It's time for the pièce de résistance, a classic birthday cake using a caramel pastry cream as the filling. So I have to start with the caramel sauce itself. I'll measure 3 tablespoons of water into the pot and then pour in a cup of sugar and add a tablespoon of white corn syrup. Turn this on high heat, and it's important when making caramel sauce that you don't stir it. You bring it to a full boil, cook it uncovered, and then occasionally brush the sides of the pot with water to keep it clean. Once it turns a nice, rich amber color, I'll remove it from the heat and stir in the cream. It's important when you add in your 1 cup of whipping cream, use a very long whisk, because as soon as you add it, it just produces so much steam. The cold cream stops the caramelization, and now you have caramel sauce. It's still quite fluid now because it's hot, so I have to let it cool completely to room temperature before I work it into the pastry cream. And just set it off the heat to cool. So now I can get on to the vanilla cake. I start with 3/4 cup of unsalted butter, and I'm going to beat that with 1 1/3 cups of sugar. Now that that's nice and fluffy, I can add in 3 whole eggs. I break them in a bowl first, so they're easier to add one at a time. And then I'll scrape down the bowl now and again. And because it is a vanilla cake, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. There we go. For the dry ingredients, 2 1/4 cups of cake and pastry flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Sift that together. I've measured 1 cup of buttermilk and I've let that come up to room temperature. It's important whenever you're making a cake that starts with room temperature butter that all your other ingredients are at room temperature. I'll alternate adding the flour and the buttermilk, starting and ending with the flour and scraping down the bowl now and again. And there we go. Good classic vanilla cake batter. I have 2 8-inch cake pans. I've greased the pans, lined the bottoms with parchment, and then coated the sides with flour so the cakes come out easily. I've just spread the batter evenly, give the pans a little tap. I've preheated the oven to 350, and these take 25 to 35 minutes until they're done. One of the nice things about a birthday cake like this is you can get all of your components ready ahead of time, so I might as well take care of my frosting. I've got 3/4 cup of unsalted butter. First I'll beat the butter, and then I'll add 2 cups of sifted icing sugar. To make the frosting fluffy, I'll add 6 tablespoons of milk, and of course, it's a vanilla frosting, so 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Now to add another 2 cups of icing sugar, and I may have to add up to 2 cups more, depending on how soft the butter was to start with. Perfect. Nice and light and fluffy. So now I can start assembling the birthday cake. My skewer is clean, so the cakes are done. These have fully cooled. I cool the cakes in their tins for 20 minutes, then I turn them out to cool completely. And it's time to bring out the star, the vanilla bean pastry cream. Just like I did in the basic vanilla pastry cream, you give it a little stir, and I'm going to pour in about 1/3 cup of the caramel. I'm gonna save the rest of this caramel sauce for the top of the cake. All right, and now time to assemble. Put down the cake board and then flip the first cake layer up what I'll do is fill a piping bag with a couple cups of that buttercream frosting I made. And this little step is simple, but it's also very important. I'm going to pipe a ring around the outside of the cake, and that actually holds in the caramel pastry cream inside the cake. So you can see now I have about a 1/2 inch lip, and I'll spread in a good half of the pastry cream recipe into the center of the cake. There we go. And then I place the second layer on top with the bottom facing the top. The next step is to do the crumb coat. A first sheer layer just to encase the cake and keep all the crumbs in. Then the final decorative layer gets put on the outside. I'll just pop this in the fridge for an hour or so just to set that outer frosting. I have one already chilled, so now the second layer of frosting can go on easier. I'm just going to put a thin layer on the top of the cake because it's going to be covered with the last of the caramel pastry cream. So the first trick to get straight sides to your cake is use a straight-sided tool like a bowl scraper with a straight side and let the cake wheel do all the work. So now that I've got nice straight sides, why not add a little detail? This is a cake comb, and so by running it on the outside of the cake, you create a beautiful and precise pattern. And just like the dam I created to hold in the pastry cream in the middle of the cake, I do it on top, but of course with a little decorative flair. Here is the remaining half of the caramel pastry cream, and I have the remaining cooled caramel sauce. Oh yeah. Let's mix the two together. And this is going to get put right on top. Smooth it out. This has to chill completely before you serve it. Then it's ready for that special occasion. Imagine this being brought to the table now to show off the inside.